Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is so nice to see you again. Such a pleasure. It's my best part of my Sunday morning, and I wanted to come and see you again. We're buttoning up the year, aren't we? And so I did a little display. Our bougainvillea is blooming. It blooms all year long, but sometimes it really puts on a show. And as the weather gets cooler, it's happy. So and the pine cones, as I'm going out to rake up things, I'm noticing that I have pine cones in my backyard. We live on a preserve, and by that I mean our property line uh, has a wall, and then it drops down to a lower level, and all of that area has been designated a natural preserve for the time being. And there's pine trees back there that are probably, I would say, 60 feet high, 70 feet high, and we get constant pine straw, but occasionally we actually get pine cones. I don't know if those pine cones are making it here via the squirrels who keep going back and forth. We have a railing back there and a fence, and I see them just going great guns back and forth. So I figure occasionally they're carrying a pine cone, and I'll find it in the yard. And I mean, I'm sure the wind can blow heavy enough that it could blow a pine cone in. But anyway, so I thought I'd dress the table up in good old terry turkey here, and my little friend, to show you that we are getting some cooler weather. It is finally that Chamber of Commerce weather, as my husband calls it, because people see our weather and it's getting cold where they are, and they look and they see that it's in the 50s and 60s at night here, and it's in 70s to 80 during the day. Perfect weather. So why am I here? Well, since I was about 22, I have always thought that we should try to help Mother Earth, and that we could, and we can. And it doesn't have to be anything monumental. It doesn't have to be Mount Rushmore. It can just be what can I do in my own backyard? About 3 years ago, I decided to give myself a goal of saving 1,000 pounds from going into the trash or going out and recycling. Metal cans, glass, all that sort of thing. It still goes out. But the things that we were throwing down the garbage disposal, like our coffee grounds, our eggshells, our fruit and vegetable peels. There was a time in the olden days when those vegetable peels and eggshells used to go into the trash. Excuse me. And we didn't have plastic bags. You had the paper bags, or if you're from someplace like Pennsylvania, you called it a poke. A poke of ice cream, or a bag was a poke, P-O-K-E. And I think that's the Amish use that expression. But anyway, everything went into that paper bag, and then that paper bag went out into the steel garbage cans that were then taken out. So it was probably less sanitary. It was less sanitary, and you really had to be careful. I still remember my mother, though, rinsing her cans. She had a can of corn or she would rinse it out before she put it in there, so as not to attract flies. So even 70 years ago, 100 years ago, people were thinking about that whole idea of, attracting flies or bringing in things into your home. And so as we've gotten more sanitized and cleaner and more aware of what carries germs and bacteria and disease, we have become more skeptical of the old ways. So incorporating all these things gets to be a challenge. I save my uh, containers, like my cereal container here, comes in a plastic bag. So I use just a paper clip, a clothespin, and I keep it closed. But this was meant to keep them fresh, keep the cereal and the contents inside, whatever you have. If you have it in this kind of a container, it comes in this kind of a container, it was meant to keep that cereal fresh. Therefore, it must be airtight or pretty darn close to airtight. So if you have something that you think is going to be smelly, if you put it in your day-to-day trash, keep these bags and use them as your kind of airtight container. And what I do is I actually take it and I put it in a spot in my freezer. If I have, we had chicken the other night, and the chicken came in a bag. I buy a larger section, and then I section it off, and each of those, it's going to smell. If it's touched raw chicken, it's going to smell. I have a bag, I put everything, any plastics in there, and then they go into the freezer, and then on trash morning, then I pull that out and it goes into my garbage bag. That way, no smell, no problems, it's contained. So anyway, all those different things. The first year I decided to do 1,000 and I far exceeded my goal. So the next year I bumped it up and I made it 2,000 and I exceeded my goal by a little. I realized that as one person living in a house of 2 people, and I'm not really far reaching, that's the word I want. I'm not going to put it out on social media that, hey, bring me all of your pumpkins. Hey, bring me all of your grass clippings. I have a neighbor who saves his grass clippings for me, and occasionally he'll bring down his cardboard if he gets packages. But I think sometimes he just puts it out. I'm not going to go through people's trash. I don't think you should have to. I think if we all did it in just this small little containment way, we could really make a big difference. Over the course of this is coming up on the final 3rd year, and not that I'm going to stop, but it's the finishing up my 3rd year of doing it. I've gotten a few other people who say, gee, I didn't realize I could take my eggshells and just, well, I don't have a pulverizer, but I can take them and hand crush them. I could put them in a bag. I could do a rolling pin over it. Oh, I don't have a rolling pin. Have you got a can of goods? Take your metal can and roll it over it. Take a glass and roll it over it. You'll pulverize them enough. And you can sprinkle it around your plants, indoor or outdoor. Somebody told me they drink coffee, but they didn't want to add all that high nitrogen to their soil. Believe me, throwing out a cup of coffee grounds on your plants outside is better for the whole world than you putting it down the garbage disposal. Give it a shot, folks. It won't hurt you. Saving your napkins, saving your tissues, putting things, if you're a pot planter, how do I want to say that? If you plant in pots and you say, oh, I really hate it because it gets all that soil in my on my balcony, or it goes into my clay tray or something like that. Well, take your Kleenex that you've used. You've been doing your makeup and you dabbed your makeup and you throw that away. Well, take a few of those and put them at the bottom of your pot first, and then put your soil in. It will take a bit for that to break down, and you'll eliminate those different things. I save all sorts of things. I save I save my leaves. You can see my, that's just from uh, this week. I guess it's been a whole week then. Strawberry tops, peppers, carrots, sweet potatoes. We had something else I can't remember. Um, I've forgotten. Anyway, it's out there, and all our fruits and vegetables we try to eat fresh. And so save the skins if you're save the peels if you're not going to eat them. If you're going to eat them, then wow, you've recycled it really well. So there's all sorts of things. We just bought shrimp. We save our shrimp shells, and then they get boiled along with our shrimp, and they let those nutrients go into the liquids that it's boiling in, and that's really good for soup. If you're not going to use it for soup, or you're going to saute or whatever, add it back into your soil. But the shrimp shells, I do bake those and then pulverize them, and then I feed that to my worms, which another layer, I keep worms. Say you don't have worms and you only have earthworms. Believe me, the earthworms will really enjoy the higher amount of organic material. Not as much as composting worms, but it will all enrich your soil. Give it a try. I would be thrilled if somebody new said to me, I just found your channel, I'm taking it as Bible, and I'm going to incorporate all these different things. And so real quick, I will tell you that, I know I'm never quick. This week wasn't a grandstand week. Our friend Brian did not bring me any grass clippings, but my elm tree has just been dropping like, it looks like it's snowing out there in brown. And my drake elm, I'm sorry I didn't bring any leaves in, but the drake elm leaves are only about like that, and it's a little oval leaf. And it's very low in lectin, which is the, I can't remember if that's protein or not, but it's very low in that. And so if they get wet and you keep them for a few months, they get like paper that has clumped, and it just goes into itself. It creates a great leaf mold. Excuse me. And so yesterday I picked up 6.5 pounds. The day before I picked up 7.5 pounds. So, but it's taking me close to an hour to get out there, and I'm raking the whole front, and then I'm sweeping it up and you know, getting it all, and it's like, and to be truthful, if I were only doing the whole project, which is very good cardiovascular, to be doing all that raking, and but I have neighbors stopping by, and they always stop with, wow, that's quite a job you got there, or, well, you can do my yard next. And I stop and talk to people. And so it's a good community, it's good health-wise. For that whole hour, it's better than I could ever get for my own health than going to a gym. And isn't that a great benefit? Find something that when you're retired inspires you and it makes you enthusiastic enough that you want to do it tomorrow. And I'm sure your doctor, whoever if you go to the doctor, I'm sure your doctor would say, oh, that's very good. Good for you. Hey, your blood pressure is perfect. So anyway, my new project, other than the 2,000 pounds to recycle, is it incorporated in that, is that I get 100 pounds of elm leaves from my big drake elm tree out there. And if you haven't already, go back in my line of videos, and you'll see what does 100 pounds of elm leaves look like. And somebody who I don't think actually watched it, but just said, oh, great job, boy, 100 pounds, you know, that doesn't look like that much. Well, it wasn't. It was only 7.5 pounds that day, but I was referring to the entire tree that eventually I will get 100 pounds. And so I need to go back through my little calendar and start charting uh, how many leaves I'll get this year. Last year I did get 101, and we had a hurricane that came through, and it was just starting. It was mid to late October. I think it was the 20th of October, and the leaves were really just starting to fall. And when the hurricane came through, uh, you could just see, it looked like all the leaves were, were just going down the street, not only on the ground, but you could just see the tree. It looked like a Charlie Brown movie where the leaves were just swirling. So all that said, this week I got 37 pounds, 0.6 ounces. You gotta cut. You have to count everything, and so I ended up. I just lost my paper here. Where am I? Forgive me, I pulled out the wrong thing. Anyway, where am I? Darn it. Last week I had 1,747, and so this week I have 1,784 pounds, 9.6 ounces. I'm so glad I remembered that. And so I still have 214 and a half pounds to get, and 7 weeks to do it. So I figure if I can keep up my 30 pounds a week, then I will make it. But just to make things kind of interesting, I've asked a few people, well, I've asked all of you, if you would like to make a little bit of a guess on how many pounds I will get. And at the top of my list is my friend Susan. She's at Casa Madhouse. That's capital C-A-S-A, capital M-A-D-H-O-U-S-E, Casa Madhouse. And she's in Spain, and she has a cat and dog rescue that she and her husband do, totally unfunded. If you want to send her money, she'll accept it. But I mean, they're retired, and it's their retirement money that is going to keeping almost 50 animals going. And they house them, and they feed them, and they take them to the vets, and I pray that I put them in my rosary every day. I go, please let somebody big say, here's some thousands of dollars, and I use it wisely. She guessed 1,945 pounds, and I think I will make that, Susan. And then is my friend Joe at Joe's Outdoor Places, and Joe is in Louisiana. He's on the bayou, and he does all these outdoor places. If you're at all into camping, he has a wonderful channel. Really unique ideas. I mean, things that I don't think about: starting a fire, and taking a cotton ball and rubbing it with Vaseline and rolling it into what looks like a little cigarette, and keeping those, and he uses that as a fire starter. And I thought, wow, I have those things. I could do that. Why is it I don't start that many fires, but why am I out there going flick, flick, flick and trying to get things started in the wind? Trekking with Deb and Mike, retired couple. I don't remember what Mike did, but Deb was a traveling nurse, and they go all over, up and down the U.S., Canada, Mexico, and they live in a camper, and truck, with a camper in the back, and that's her life. And they're in their 60s, early 70s, and they just go from one national park to another, and the photography it's breathtaking. And Deb does most of the voiceover, and she has a real knack for it. Have you met people like that I've watched videos where I think, oh my, your voice is etching glass here, and She has such a nice voice, and she takes you from one spot to another and just tells the stories. It's just wonderful. Um, Barbie Daly is a lady who lives up in Washington State. I'm getting such an education on the United States and the geography. I wish I'd had all of you in grade school because I was just a C student at best. But Barbie, Barby, Daily, Daily, dash, Rural Life in the Valley. She guessed, oh, I'm sorry, Joe said 1955 because that's when he was born. So he's 5 years younger than me. Trekking with Deb and Mike said 2001 pounds. She got it right over the 2000. And Barbie Daly, Rural Life in the Valley, she guessed 2011. She has a channel which she does all kinds of crafts, and something that I would have been interested in years ago. And now I watch it and I think that's very pretty. But now I'm like, I have dirtier hobbies like gardening and worms. And my really good friend here is Sandra at Nana's Worms and Garden, and we have been following each other. We are sisters from two different mothers and two different fathers, but we are sisters from a past life. I know it. And Nana's Worms and Garden, if you have any grandkids, if you're anybody out there with grandkids, check out her channel. She started this for her granddaughter Micah, Mica. I think that's a wonderful name, and she has 3 grandkids now, just two younger ones, and but when she did it for Micah, it was, I thought this would be a great. Anybody remember Captain Kangaroo? Anybody remember Romper Room? She is teaching the lesson. She doesn't use baby talk, but she says it in such a way that if I were a little kid, I wouldn't be intimidated. And as an adult, I'm learning things. And then as she has progressed, she has brought it up to a lot more. She's a doctor of biology. So she has the smarts, she has the ability, but she has the uncanny ability to relate to all levels. And I think what a gift God gave her. She suggested, she guessed 2020. Gardening with bar chucking. He's a man's man. He's a bowler. He's a bowler who wins titles. So, and he has gotten into worms and gotten into gardening, and he lives on the East Coast. I want to say Delaware, and he does all these different things. I don't think he's married. I don't think he has kids, but he's really in tune with his brother and his life, and he does things family oriented. But he's always growing things and always interested. And he's a worm farmer like me, and he really he's very interesting. He's very interesting, and he said 2,205 pounds. My next one, I'm sorry, 2,000. I should have said R&W Farmstead. Tony Walsh, he guessed 2,042, so he's a little lower than that. I got out of sync there. I'm sorry, but Tony has he's got a farm, and he's in Georgia, and he has just recently gone from having a beautiful house in a development with some property to back on his wife's family's farmstead. And Tony's in his early 60s and has always been into farm equipment and the old time ways of doing things, and his wife is too. They do a lot of canning, they do a lot of growing, and they're getting back into this in their second childhood, as I call that time that you're in your late 50s, early 60s. You haven't quite retired yet, but you realize that you really, when you do retire, you want to go back to what life was in a simpler time. You don't want to just retire and sit idle. And so he's really getting into all these things. He's very worthwhile watching. That's all I can say. It's very worthwhile. He has a lot of messages. He's also a very religious man, and he does a lot of uh, things that are related to the Bible. And so he's very worthwhile watching also. And my last dimension is, now I'm going to say this like a not Spanish girl. I pronounce it Juani, and it's Juani is her first name, and she pronounces it Wani. As my husband says, well, that's how it should be pronounced. So I go, okay, all right. I have to say things that, so I know how to spell it. If you have a silent letter for me, I'm lost. I'm putting you in the wrong column in the alphabet. So Wani's Garden, 5356 after that. And this lady lives in, I think she lives in Texas now, and they're going to move to Arizona. But if you go, every part of the United States, every part of the world seems to have their own identity. We're in a very moist, high humidity area. Out in Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, I mean, they are dry. And yet she gets, for being somebody who just has a home garden, she has things growing, fruit trees growing up, vines and growing up, it's so artistic to see some of the things that she has, her putting up netting and then having things growing up in them and under them and over them, and the amount of produce she gets. I mean, she shows you tables full of her basil that she has produced, and that now she's going to dry and powder, and she's a very interesting lady. She's very interesting. She has some really good ideas. Her son, I don't know if he does it for a living, but he does a lot of cooking, and chef level cooking. Not, oh boy, I just made banana bread, but I mean, he just makes things that she shows, and you go, wow, that's a really good idea. Oh wait, I could put that 2 and 2 together, and so there's a lot of ideas there. But anyway, that was my. I hope you'll thank you for staying and listening if you did. To the folks who have made guesses, because I think it makes it fun. And when I was a kid, my parents, for your homework or I'm dyslexic, so I had a really hard time, and that was back when you were just a stupid kid. Oh, she doesn't read, she's not very good at it. It didn't occur to anybody to say, well, why? And how about, and I was scared to death. I was scared to death to read, because if I made a mistake, well, the nuns were going, what's wrong with you? You're in the third group. Go sit down with the dummies. And it was like, it just changed my whole world. To this day, if I have to read aloud, I just, the whole fear level, I'm sure my blood pressure just goes way up. I've gotten better about it because I do more of it, and I will actually try reading aloud to myself so that I can practice. And the world has changed so much more now than it did 60, 70 years ago. And so we're used to sitting in front of a camera and talking to who? Nobody. Everybody. And so the idea of practice makes perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. Practice makes better. And practice makes a calmer situation. And so I come to you each week, and I hope I leave you with some inspired words. I hope I do. It benefits me just in doing it if nobody watches it. And if somebody watches it and they take away a message, I'm thrilled. But giving yourself goals, I think, is so important at all different stages of life. I'm a person who I didn't realize how goal-oriented I am. And the older I get, the more goal-oriented I become. And so in doing this in retirement years, if I'm out walking, I keep track of how many days I'm able to walk that 30 minutes or 40 minutes or 45 minutes. If I'm swimming, how often I'm able to do that swim to keep things going. Because I can tell you, I have a neighbor who is celebrated his 92nd birthday in May, and he lives alone. His son lives nearby, and Paul is a little man, and he's a very lean man. So he looks like I could pick him up, and I probably could. And I only saw him 6 weeks ago, and he was at the grocery store. I was going in, he was coming out, and he was taking his groceries, and he had all his fruits and vegetables. He had the color of the rainbow. He had everything, and he was very, very cognitive. He was very on it. He always tells me, he said, I keep forgetting stuff. I really have to keep up an eye on that. And I said, just remember Peggy and Paul, you'll remember it. And so whenever I say to him, hi, Paul, he goes, hi, Peggy. See, it's that mental connection. And when I saw him, he said, oh, hi, Peggy, how you doing? And I told him about Rick being in the hospital and getting out. And that was at the beginning of that conversation. And we talked, and and at the end of that conversation, maybe it was only 8 or 10 minutes, he said, by the way, tell your husband I said hi, and I hope he's feeling better. And I thought, see, he made that connection. The Alzheimer's wasn't there. And yet I saw him 2 weeks ago, and he was walking with his son, who lives around the corner. And I looked and I thought, why is he lagging behind? Because Paul has a pretty good gait. And Chris is the son's name. He was walking the 2 dogs, and I thought, oh, well, maybe that was it. The dogs were ahead. And I could see Paul, and he was walking more at an angle, stooped over, and the elbows were back, like they were trying to pull him back, but they just weren't doing the job anymore. And I've seen him almost every day since. And he stopped the other day, and we always wave to him, and his son is going, because he's hard of hearing, Paul, Dad, Peggy and Rick said hi, and he goes, oh, hi. So he knows where we live. And then when I saw him yesterday, it's like his son is talking about him, not to him anymore. He's talking about him, like, oh, well, Dad's having some memory problems, and we're trying to get it figured out. He just doesn't seem himself. And here was Paul just standing there like the beaten soldier. And I thought, something's happened here for somebody who I just saw 5-6 weeks ago. And what could it be? And is that part of your brain shutting down and saying, I don't have anything to live for anymore? So all I can say is keep fighting the good fight. Keep giving yourself a reason to go out the next day. And whether it's Joe's Outdoor Places, who's always thinking of some other way, some other knife to show us, some other way to start a fire contained, some other way of showing us some place to go, some other way of showing us if you're Nana's Worms and Garden, some other way of showing us why worms could save the world. So I'm sorry, I know this is a really long one, and I hope you stayed. That's all I can say is I hope you stayed. But remember, garden what you've got. That's where I started, where I have anything that I have that I can use it again. And, you know, garden what you've got is use what you have and just set in a more flowery way. So with that, I will say thank you so much for coming to visit. And I hope to see you again real soon. I hope to see you next week. If not, I hope to see you during the week, because you know I'll be here. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.